Tadi kala karashi lanra. Sudan de Jamaki, Sadaginos, Tange Trogan, Trudens, Udon shoot, Gesona, Telamo, Jeselanis. Ta di Galos and Chitang on the Juno Jedra. She is also true that the Takarin and Suta de Chen Wangis, Dagi Nor, Pena, Kashimi, the Vachum, the Negichin, and Suzu Nor, Juno Jura, Muinare. Suzupenjo Karina, the Digi, not to Jus, Tanchi Trocamana, Suzuki goes to Troale in a red, and a mission budget Troa Julian, Troa Gompa the Chawan Tangdo, in the Tamba in a red, Juna Yans, Ludan Monshi, Suzuki Tana Luce, and Longela de Junoji Benjo the Takarin Ra, Monchi, that they may be too soon, any Gawaya, Suzuki had a Sasha begin, de Patanta, the Maupe Sasha. Savangemi Giovanna. I mean, tell them how I just said in the cylinder in the what to the name who is son of Judy, and he just says somebody the Chuba Restra, Yame.
Now we are in the 12th stanza or the 12th practice of the Bodhisattva of a Bodhisattva, and this 12th practice, it talks about like the importance of dedication and dedication in the sense like so if we just take a read through the text, it says here like even if others in the grips of great desire should steal or encourage others to take away all the wealth that I possess, to dedicate to them entirely my body, possessions, and all my merits from the past, present, and future, this is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So basically, it teaches us to not to cling on to our body, our physical body, our material possessions, and ultimately, even like the invisible, like the invisible things. Invisible like merits that we have, like all the good karmas that we have collected, we should not like cling on to that, even if like other people under the influence of like a great like affliction such as like desire should like directly or indirectly like try to steal your possessions, your physical like body, your like material possessions, and the invisible like good karma that you have collected from the past, present, and future, to let go of this kind of like possession and to dedicate like these kind of like physical body, material possessions, and the invisible like good merits or like good karma that you have accumulated to others, to dedicate them for others. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas.
Dadile peshere shamas. Tadi odle kalana dala nyeba chunse meshin ra. Tadi karte ngudana ane majundu didudu tanda ngazo dinala lama chibe tsawajiwa. Khata ngazo chida ge changa simbare majundu didudu yug mali tata dala phambata dagi degi jana tawai dogo deda de bashinji la la chijira. Tadi karla wala na dodo di karla wala na 소소라 니바다 소소가 노트카 체메바이나 미카시 틱함바타고도 지여라다 라 동란 소소 동야도 타난 고라 소바이나 두에 라 달라 니바 중세 메신데 아니 강다 다기 고주 주지난 제단 미 강시 쓰시라지라 근데지기 소소 고주자 용이나 양스 희지왕게 들바 아니 단도 파코네 말로 아주이나 동갈레나 팔람선레나 로로 라 츠츠 츠부질란 남자가서 초고만 람서파 the young Patsik Zubula, the Shora. That just changes about the Zugi, Karuna, the Tik Zubula, the Zubagom to him, but the Susan Gojoga in my net and do the Hijian Kira, Hijiwangi, they deeper nums. That Tandu Karachagolan, Mijik some Gojoga another, Nazuda is Zutuma and the Trubajagra. They changes about the son of Yapotani, the Zugi, Kiziku Gojo and the Miji say or a miss and a big Dibasa or Ra. Dibana dala lemada ta korang nasi ba ina tigi dipa jurdi dipa de ta khalo chena de khatu de ne yo mar ta ko ni ji chin ra ndero dipa nam sa dala ne kharsa dala lemba jese la ne is cheta ani chena ju di ya debe ni ji chin la ndero 예망이만 당도 자서 팔을 된 로그들라 손으로도 저배 저배 인지증 가르잖아 아니 맨날 동동생이 미베 막보세 로그서라 봐 디가 디나로라 아니 저배디 산주 선바 인자라 봐다디 계시 맨날 두두지 디나로 드디갈다 미스 사마세와이나 민갑제나 한다 당감 땡을 따다 팅미더라 미망보저다 디 세샤그레 삼다코 근데 세와이나 타코 디밭 섭침무사 녀라는 로고야기 아니 근데게 페타 디밭 섭침무사 상부르선다 산주 선바디 라 주변디 산주 선바지 아니 거기 딱 사나 야보단 지난게 미스요데 디바레데 타코 딜링녀와 미드네 망보세와이나 베트 땡녀와 마토다 야자야 미글리네데 토예메바데 딜레 섭진 사기르 삼니 아니 미치기 던달라 타카르 미 마모 던달라 치크세 샤지 딜리로지라 티에 카르라니 코 지난게 미스요데 두자레데 이네 고누들 칼라나 미 망보 지기 소체베치 미직세와라 우드니로 세상 가시기다 소소를 동해 용와이네 아니 때 있다 칼로 딜라 팔람사 카데 마자네 힌지죠 알아 코니제 디밭 섭좀 부사기도 사야 좀 마시 딜라 팔람사 카데 자네 인데 치고 말아
So now we move on to the 13th stanza and the 13th practice of the Bodhisattva. If I try to if I try to give you an example, I want you to take a read through it, and then if I give you an example or to try to illustrate the point of the of this stanza. Let's say even without a speck of mistake on your own part, if some other people they come for your head, they want to cut off your head, then at that instance the practice of a true bodhisattva will be to not to retaliate, but to develop compassion for the other person who is coming for your head. And at that point of time, the concern of a bodhisattva will be to develop compassion for the fact that this person, out of ignorance, is committing such a harmful act, wherein he will have to suffer the bad merits or the bad karma that he accumulates upon the completion of this harmful deed. So at the moment of even at the moment of danger of losing his or her own head, the bodhisattva has the wisdom to pray or to make this this dedication to take on all the bad karma that this particular person is going to accumulate upon oneself at the moment of death. So this is an example to illustrate the point of the 13th practice of a bodhisattva. So this ties in with the genuine exchange part of the previous of the previous stanzas, and then there is another famous story in Buddhism about a bodhisattva who was a captain of a merchant ship, and this merchant ship they used to go to the sea to trade or to look for pearls, and then this particular captain, he had the mind of he was a bodhisattva, and as such he could see that among the 500 crewmates that he had, then out of those 500, one of the crewmates was about to commit such a massacre that he wanted to kill the rest of the crew. And so then, knowing that this person would accumulate such irreversible and such infinite bad karma if he is to undertake this harmful act, then the bodhisattva, out of compassion, he took out of compassion and out of wisdom, he took the decision to kill that one particular person. To kill that one particular person from committing such a heinous crime.
Today, ngatu dawene ade tiskale khawra sosole tanda chi me baji shugale to chuduro ni mi chat to thewena ngazul tade yo anjo to thewena khaji ngano tu chi chi me ngal khar chi sam no so ngulu la nda ra this is some ande ra chesang anjo gi 상주 semba dengan tu loyu lo shungka kana thwa ma bole da khaya mara nga pet tido ko pek mi damza sanda khansa shodu khara bet gorle tang she mi ki pula san tang do che ta konju san ta ngonjo le bet gor che ge che tho tinde da ra ngonjo ngana jala san ta waina tinde su che tu ngal no ri khe me nga tinde jing me la ni ra namsang pha len lo do tinde le gora konjo ende mar ra tinde injo pe nganja da 상주 semba para da cheba pe re tinde injo che jang ngara jo di lo jong di gala do thu ye tanda 정말 진짜 상주 선반 나시게 냠네 체마도네 쇼총한다고 너가 제여라 그래 공도라
So now, like when we recount such examples of like the captain who commits like a crime of killing a person, even though he's a bodhisattva, he's willing to forsake, like he's willing to commit this like particular crime so as to like save the other like 499 crewmates and like that particular person from bad karma, but he doesn't think about the bad karma that he himself accumulates when he like takes on this action of killing that particular crewmate. So when we recount such examples, maybe like the question arises, and it was quite evident, like maybe this is the concept of like Bodhisattva, or like the generation of bodhicitta as a mind nature in ourselves. Maybe it kind of feels like it's too big, and it's out of our reach. Maybe we might get that feeling, but this is the length, or this is the limitless nature of the compassion that a true bodhisattva has to cultivate. And so even though like we might feel like maybe this is out of reach, or this is like not too practical, but we can, of course, we cannot try to do everything exactly like as is mentioned in the practice of a bodhisattva, but as human beings we can actually try to like go in the general direction of the path of a bodhisattva with small efforts. So it's quite evident like that maybe like as human beings these like practices, they are kind of like out of reach, because if we take the example, like if someone like grabs you by the hair and kind of pulls you, or someone grabs you by the ear and like yanks at it, and then like the immediate reaction, of course, that we have is one of like trying to retaliate rather than like practicing like compassion, or rather than like trying to understand the other person's like actions. So this is why rather than reaching for the ultimate practices, or like rather than reaching directly to the ultimate practice of the bodhisattvas, it's important to just like try to follow the general direction of the teachings and work with small efforts first.
세상 나라서 그 지당이 미친 나로라 간대지로는 수수슈 숨제체라 숨제체 답변에 매기 지게 저는 슈 된데서는 숨제체오래 만족 류들에 만족 제법 가지지 지어라는 미지게 특수부지 나와이나 대 초고 말라 공알에 된데 특수부라서 아니 단도 진짜 마무상 가상이라서 단데라서 아니 미지게 미 따당시 아버지 마다네 가지는 공알에 엔데 치는 진짜 나라 수수수 숨제체고라 근데 질 때는 딘줄 때는 가지고 강이 마부치 쓰고라 다 제제 상주 때문에 진짜 말로 때는 미기 가르라나라 가르 동나 동 간대지 뭐 가르치 소설로 두부 정화이나 근데기 콘솔 파서바 검토야 라 단도딜에 파 수두제 정화이나 파약 붙이도 먼저 딜에 가보시라라 뭐 근데기 체당 아주 버리 체바 산탄다다 샹주 심바도 산탄다다 아주 당가도 레디 좀 하오메라 근데 산탄다 체바 시라이라.
So now, like personally, like I try to think about like the difference between like the immense compassion of the bodhisattvas and their practice, and I try to compare it to myself as a person, and then like I think like there is a huge huge difference and a huge like gap between like me as a person and like the practice of the bodhisattvas, because I try to think about like how like as a human being I need to like have this constant like I have this constant need to like as human being need to like protect myself, even like physically. If someone like comes to harm me, then I have this physical need to protect myself. And then like verbally, even like if someone like uses some sort of harsh words, then of course like I have this immediate reaction to like protect myself from like verbal assaults too. But then like even like the example, like if someone looks at me in a strange way, or someone looks at me with not such friendly like not such friendly approach in the eyes, then of course then I feel this need to protect myself. So when I try to think about like such small instances wherein we are not able to let go of like of ourselves, then I think about the practice that the bodhisattvas that they undertake. Then I feel like indeed like their compassion is almost like immense and limitless.
Tadi sewa chipsi dina dagaran tengu tu ra nga siktu bulla batale zoba gomba shira kenan le ra gashi dala minyen hatsu chesan gashi le ta mi khashe hira sosola minye ba duja re ko mara jabata khanda khashi jumashin la ora khashe ta da mand le do ra chiso na lo la sosola mambe ta kirana pe duja re chi ni sun ta jinza tang le ba shin ra kashi chado chin shigire kashi chingmaga wa ndamde chin di sola di shini mambo yorwa ta kisi di shiba ina tongsun chabar dobachen ta tongsun ya mambo shigo na kale ka ta khanda zamni changma la chabe chi ro kyola duja re chi re chapra chebe mila she topoto ma changma la she kasa kala batta ti no chi thaje gi ti khar la ni de yorwa 근데 다 녀마이나 들리는데 중요이나 다 상주 선보도 가르쳐라나 또 수쳐버 제 지나야 된대기 제와야나 콜라단도 캐나를 두제 해야 되기라 아니 팔 군제 맞으시느라 캐나를 빼 마마부터 딜은 콘도 마사와시네 단도 상주 선보도 가시나 상주 셈베라 상아가르선 샴비 센질 하야 되니라 콘조를 코다 저 근데 틀어서도 메라 다니기 미들 단도 상주 샴비 셈 야, 타야 되니라디 파라 코네 두자 말로치네 단도 코 연대지가 소소를 스만베 단지 저 두자를 지리니를 아니들라 알레 코 두자라 파 말로치네 단도 코 야보여다 지여니는 단도 딘데 두자 지니들이 파 연대지가 연대지가 제셀라네 인로 당조 있는 수 두자 지리니들 파야포를 라통바 아 단도 코 지리니를 말에 엔델라션은 팔로나로 세상 먼저 삼나 단단바로 치버 빼도 라
So now like the 14th stanza, it ties into what is like spoken about in the 13th stanza. Like we talked about like verbal abuse, verbal abuse, and now like in the 14th stanza, if we take a quick read through it, then it says that as a normal person, if someone tries to like defame you, or like someone tries to say something unpleasant about you, and they say it in such a manner, like in such a public manner, where like everyone hears about like this bad or unpleasant thing about you, of course as a normal person our reaction will be to retaliate and try to like counter the argument, or try to like say like bad things about that person in return. But the practice of a bodhisattva at such an instance, when you are being defamed, when you are being like when like you are being accused of all manner of unpleasant things, either out of jealousy, hatred, whatever on the other person's part, then the practice of a bodhisattva in his immense compassion that's filled with love would be only to speak about the good qualities of that person who is accusing you of such like such things. So this is the practice of a bodhisattva, to not retaliate to people who verbally abuse you or verbally say unpleasant things about you, but to talk about the good qualities that the person has.
Roman debi usu sangashiki. Ta mi mambo ji cho shembeki negale ra. Ani ami khaji khajana changane thuwa. Chidan ko mi ta mi shesa de duja royo wa ina mi changme chile kola a ko de re ni yor nya. Ma be ro chira. Chane thu shi chingem ha. 아니 그 미디 소소 미전제지다 하기 미신바디기 지시네 그 미신바 시사들 전지 요바이네라 미 참을틀 시고야면 로봇 마카리는라 차 엔데 마젤 야부시네 디다 미 참에서로 뭐츠페네 아니 그나 그나 들이었다 두자여지 예니라 마부시와다 아니 싱님바 하나 양스 들이 마게나 야스라 텔레 게웨 희진도 희지 텔레 게웨 단도 근데 희니들래 수수 게웨 희니 라 가는 계획이 진듯이 그걸 내가 제sel라네 제선 근데 쯤만 배치니들 아 다른 강문에 타내기 나라기 지켜냐매 제기 시제 아니 유지 차송사에 봐 계획이인데 शुरु근도 싫어산 단도들 봐 그거죠 라 그건 내가 제sel라네 인슬라
And now if we now on the 15th stanza or the 15th practice of the Bodhisattva, we're still talking about like the if someone like tries to verbally abuse you or tries to defame you. Now it says here like if someone out of like if someone is genuinely wants to like correct your behavior or like to console you, then like of course he would say it in the confidence of in private or in the confidence of a room or a small area where there's not much people. But then like if some people out of like maliciousness they try to expose or try to like with great effort try to like expose your faults or hidden faults in front of a great gathering of people and try to defame you in such a way, then the practice of a bodhisattva or practice of a bodhisattva or the reaction of a bodhisattva to such a situation is to actually think of these people or as like spiritual friends or as teachers and to bow to them in respect because these like kind of people actually give you the base and serve as the object of your practice. So to not to retaliate and to like to see these people who out of like maliciousness try to expose you in front of like a great gathering of people or like in front of public, to like to see them as like teachers or spiritual friends, and because like they provide you the base and they provide you the object of practice, to see them in such a way. This is the practice of a bodhisattva.
다디가는 가서 주부시는 코스데 니오이라 근데 인자 캬즈 미스 나로라야 미기 수수게 너두게 치면에 지 인주로 지니다 카탄이로 근데 중요해서 중도 잡아라 파서바 검유야 파칼로 파넬로 안디치니
So maybe like these like kind of feel like when we talk about like these kind of talks, like maybe this kind of feel like these kind of like things, when we talk about it, maybe it kind of feels unpractical and may not really appeal to you. But like I want you to ask this question, like I want you to try to relate like this to your own experience. If you have ever been accused, or if you have ever been like verbally abused, then I want you to think about like were you able to like tolerate that kind of like verbal abuse or like that kind of like accusation, or were you quick to like retaliate, or what was your reaction in such an instance?
Not correcting. Is it not right to correct in a peaceful way, in a respectful way, not by being harmed, but is it not good or better for the situation also to prevent harmful situations in the future, to correct the situation? In peaceful attitude, of course.
시디기 따와도 지키나 아니 주만에 딘데 양요건 중마시와도 다 사변로지 답기라스 템바지글라 아니 람삼파기나 주마야 유튜버야 저 쇼레조지라.
Because it might be also unawareness of the other person, and it's probably also the opportunity to bring awareness. Right?
바주미 이번님 또 마시니 지게 거기지 남바도지요라스. So were you actually able to like think about this kind of thing, or able to like tolerate such like accusations or such abuse at actually when you are going through that experience?
Yeah, up to one point I experienced that.
Yet you can tolerate.
Huh?
That you can tolerate.
I can tolerate it also, especially when general with myself also, I can from that point. But still I have the wish or the need to solve the situation also, to solve it. Not
Yes.
I think by just only the attitude, the situation will be not prevented also in the future for others.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. 또 다와랑 타긴 숨겨되라. 세로 지글은 곰투이도스. 이니 신다지 갈라라기들은 더 connectedness 로 라기도 그런스. 수수셈나 소소기다. 나냠도 요 삼에기지 로로지라. 디유디서 뭐 곰투이도스. 이니 신다 삼삼 곰투이며로 시기스. Sometimes, not all the time, you have the same reaction. Sometimes maybe you have like other type of reaction too. Not one of tolerance too. Is this true?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I'm trying to.
Sometimes it's even afterwards. So
okay.
maybe I can stop myself from reacting in the moment, but then it will replay in my head, and I will keep on reacting in my head, which is basically the same.
Can I translate first? Oh, yeah. Kapsu babera. Kapsu babe tizula kurangi lamsan dila di khalagila. Suba gome tapsi tang naisra. Gom tuwaro nambaro jiligires. Inis kapsu babe moi paranja khalemalo dimachine jine. Ani semnangla yang yogone samlo khordigi dadi. In khorde zamba kanju manju chobanala ma thendroyagi di chibado redo as.
Sometimes I feel a little bit like she's saying that I don't say anything and then I overreact in my head. Sometimes I feel that it's better, even if you're a little bit angry, to take it out.
Okay.
Because after I keep it and I'm like thinking about it, and when it goes out, it's way much worse.
Taga moi kurangi lagyo do resra. Tis chimena tona yaga do thongi dus. Kajalana kisi sem namla tuzu dela da kyangi ngala chiglana nye le ma yep soba gombi do no chini. Sem namla lung tanung hadi dos. Hadi na jene seba kiu megyo manga chagi dus.
Shimba.
Can I ask about the limits that were also before in some, I don't know anymore exactly which part it was, but there was written that we should set boundaries and limits, right? How is it going together with this? And is it my question still is like, is it I understand the right attitude to have, to be compassionate and to understand, to act from a part of understanding the other one, not by judging, but embracing. But still, is there not a need to correct the situation?
What do you mean when you say correct the situation?
By making the other person aware, maybe, of their behavior, and also about the result or effect that this behavior might cause. In general, if I just accept it and tolerate it and let it happen, it will not do good. Probably not to the situation, not to the next situation also the person is carrying. It's like a free ticket also, no?
Free ticket to what?
For the person to continue.
To continue like doing the same transgressions. That kisi soba gom denna yora. Moi lana that nedang logic that chunra da. Kyongani the trubado show soba gom denna. Soba gom denna ngai kikuji malap soba janjang gom denna yora. Tamadaju de la ko similar juamate koi da de rangjalung sa de na koi maung bala ta thagarang engyogone chedigiras. En kola free ticket la sa moi. The Kadi Karichina, Korang Dovado Jiras, what in the ina that the Ganzunedang del Doling 100 sugars.
The dig did not show in the Chana Michigira. Karaji the Nero the Rochira. The Chewina Lamsan Luma Dejin, could have Yaboji Kisham, Kang and the Chiduas, the Jinse Carades. Ra, teaching the Pai de la Chewe could have Miss Anson, not true, color the Cornetin, Ra, for long language chatted, Havana, the Jinse Sajidan Pekachur. Chichina can't send to this. Payla taking them to do the thing now or showing. Zandan to Tuni. Pay me Geguchi, Yomar, Samatan Geshena, Harina, Samatana, Zandan to Tuni, Payla no Juru Toda. Ra. Today in Zakani, the Yamduchin, Kitchen. Can't let the Geshedando and the Chidos, not Nabu like those. The Karshin Rela, Ra. 아니 그런 거 지진 진짜 되네 최혜성이 망하라 지치서 지진은 지 칼로 가서 권해로 되리나 디세히 제기 고거라고 봐 지진 아 말다 나한테 지켜고 지면 알아 좀 잔잔히 있네 알아 난 주된 다다 되지 처럼에 포대 얘기했어 아 그거 gond알았으라 봐 지진은 지랑이 semba machi di gala mishi balo no chudu thon sigira dinde yuzi sosola ta chi chi phagi de la kishi thi ani ninja gi phatsu di kangi de ma me baso de ninja la nge resra cheza dinde indi gala jingni ma chung dre ma ra pena chana gi phat sing na ko de ko sing na ko de chir dur ma chung ju do ma kangi se hi chi ni ani ma me baso ya ra chung ta chung me baso de kangi ninja la nge resra.
So of course, if you find yourself in such a situation and you want to like approach the other person to try to get to the bottom of it, then like of course the best method is to try to engage in a dialogue with them. But before like engaging in a dialogue with them, it's important to look at yourself first too. Like okay, maybe the reason for these could be twofold, threefold. Like try to think about like why is this happening, and then one it could be like there's some sort of like misunderstanding, some sort of point of conflict between you that you two did not actually have a proper dialogue about, and two, it could be like your own like misconception and your own like projection. Like this person is behaving in such a way towards me, wherein like in actuality that person, he's just like being himself or herself. That is the way he talks, or that is the way he behaves. But like sometimes we tend to project our own like fears and our own like doubts onto other people. So this is very important before we engage in a dialogue with the other person. And now like when you engage in the dialogue, then of course there is avenues to try to like come to an understanding between each other, to try to like understand like each other's point of views. And when you engage in a dialogue, of course, it's very important for it to be cordial, to not to engage in like this bad words, for this to be dialogue to be like civil. So this is the way you need to approach this kind of like problem when you face it in your life.
그래도 더 쓰이는 어디는 게요. 신바지가 가서 숨바지기는 로바지 깔 커버라. 그니 내가 그리 하고. 저녁에 아니 나가 근데 지금도 이게 가르라 바뀌지나. 기신은 보라기 저녁에 도체서 쓰세기신. 기신은 저녁에 너였지. 너는 저녁에 gond알라 토야도 거다. 난 너면 나 까우까자인데 저녁에 엔드 통을 가르라 판징네. 제주라. 그냥 고라기 되게 통해나 그냥 노트도 지지는 뭐네 얘기를 지지는 그 통해 뭐네 매와 있네 고라기 근데 아니 노트 여와 있나 소소 제는 건달라 노트 제면은 그 통해는 아래 저런 통주도 너랑 근데 제면은 세히야 보시 디 매드 맞는 저런이들 게 레스토랑 니자는 게 내가 저 라바 엔드 드리가 니자이 말하는 디게 들리입니다 아주 수준 니자를 여러분도 그 기본 나보다 저 기본 가거든데 이말아 니자기 수준 니자는 게 레스.
So in such a conflict, of course, when if you want this dialogue to happen, a third party cannot come in between and like try to make you talk to each other. It really depends on the initiative of like the two parties who are in conflict with each other to try to come into dialogue. And now when you come into dialogue, it needs to be an honest dialogue on like both parts. And wherein like you should not hold on to the grudges of the past and say like you said all these bad things about me, now like because of that you are a bad person, and like that. This should not be the course of like dialogue that we take. Of course the kind of dialogue that should happen is like you said such things about me, and if this is true, then of course you need to accept it, but then accept the mistake and try to explain it to them. If you did not commit like this mistake, then try to explain to that person that you are accusing me like falsely. This is not something that I did or something that I do, and try to explain the situation in this way to each other, and then we can come to an understanding.
남선 미들라 지기 계시에 근데 치마도네 Zamnigal me in the Mambor, some of them damare, Koyun damare, Sembatama damare ra. Tinda me in the Zamnigal and the young cigarettes, Harina, some with so much by the Macha than Humara. Chetan damn the young cigarettes and she in the Namitam, till the Harare Kardan, such in the Marmadura. Right, she did the younger sister, younger and younger Harina. Then there was some Kapuchikani Maris.
So one way of like approaching this is like in this world, like you run into like a lot of different kind of peoples, and like these different people, they have like different type of like dispositions, different types of like emotional state, different type of mental capabilities. So like in all your interactions with them, of course there will be some friction, but if you are going to like try to engage in dialogue with every one of them, then of course this doesn't make sense. So you need to be able to like sometimes like tolerate like a small or like small transgressions, and try to like make the correct decision of like trying to let go these kind of like small transgressions. Otherwise, like if everybody is of the same like mental like capability, everybody has the same type of like elemental disposition or emotional state, then of course there's no need to have dialogue, because we are all on the same page already. Now, like anyone else wants to answer the question about Anybody else wants to share their experience?
I was just that made me look back at number 5, where, the practice of all bodhisattvas and avoid destructive friends, and whose company the 3 poisons of the mind grow stronger, and engage less and less. Just someone that, I just had a recent instance where my closest spiritual friend was just hurt me very badly, but I did not retaliate, and but it still hurts. It's hard not. You're still human. You still feel, and I don't know how to handle it because it was my closest spiritual friend, and so I don't know. What I found is, as much as you try to change someone's perspective, the more they kind of dig their heels in. I don't know. I probably should just forgive and forget, but. Yeah, so that just made me think about number 5, that there's someone in your life that it ends up being destructive and causes those 3 poisons to grow stronger within you. Maybe you should distance yourself, but only if you can't handle that within your own mind, I guess, is what I'm coming around to, is that you should be able to control those negative emotions as they arise. Yeah.
Yes. Morang nyamnyungro ji thagi nganzu sikje ngaba jora sodima ge ji dinyamdo ani thungi duro samgi dosra kajana na nyechar morang gi da chöroji ani loshu tanyo chesa jora dindeji nyamdo ani chamme cham chongsons ani nge ani nyamnyungla tana ani kisi mishinda ji la soso gi mishinda gi samlo tangna ro di juwa tangya thapchi tangna phajo medi gi kemalena ani khonzu sa thyo shi sa manga thungi ro chi gi dosya in chesan ngai didu zamani tanda sikchenga wage ji di nyamlen ro sungora di tharmbu de do da ani phajula soba goma tun tharmbu de di yasho do res tende do sorsons
je chena kazan de ga ju de shitsara soso ge ge soso la ta chi ore zo ko gon to de kesi de la goma de tharin ta ro anjo khashi la chi tas dida jönbu dena ani ya ko chasa marasana su dik tabshele khazanazlara tab pe kechumar tab de shirele ra tajna o di jude jen tane anzu lega khara chewa ine di maung ba khande jumsare ta ne ta dinge khazan ta gorle shui ba khazna di dinde de chewa ine maung ba duje chasana de chuba jomar ta ring se dena su di nyumu ma che ya phende ra ka kundo dan de khare ne so
yes it is exactly like you mentioned, and as we discussed before, like when we talked about like wisdom, then we also need to talk about like the method, and then of course as we talked about before, like the most important part in the practice, in the Buddhist practice, is to look at yourself first. look at like how am I going to react, what is the state of like what is my emotional state in this situation. So of course if you find yourself like to able to take on like this task of like tolerating or bearing, then by all means try to engage in dialogue, try to like make the other person understand. But if you do not see it in yourself like to try to tolerate or bear through these, then of course like you mentioned, the correct practice would be to try and like put some distance.
Then Mikhailando, Chinganzo Mandi was Danganzo, Chambo Chai, Suzuki position, I shared over the Tapstana. Pagi made the tradition Metando Secundro Landena, they let this Shashan Yara. Kazakulu Shuchaman Tanducharaki, Apoche Lado, could do just go to drain there. Today in the unpaid Lasachi, because she can assure. Tindela, there's a tiny day or the Annie Korakora sometimes, and sometimes Mikhaji population sometimes around the Resha, no to Jim Dusane, Zamda Sosole, and to Munzit to need the Nilivora.
So yeah, you need to be wise in making the decision, like in making the decision. So like as I said, we need to look at ourselves, but sometimes we even need to check the state that the other person is in. So if a conflict arises between yourself and someone else, and then you in all your all your heart wants to like resolve this conflict and want to talk to the other person, but if the other person is still like holding on to like this anger and this hatred, and he's not willing to listen, but if you like still try to talk to them at that point, that's like adding fuel to fire, at that point. So this is not a wise decision at that moment. So maybe we need to be really practical, really wise, and then we need to be always like looking for the right method, the right time to do to try to resolve a conflict.
That didn't Miji Chang Malo Shara, that captain Negajil shower. In can now to lone, cannot Yansama Machi and the Chego Master. Nakashi that from Peggy to Chego. That's all Silene, Sanatang, the Gala Karchin Konga, the line, Kajina line, Jizim Mabuji Santa, the Chasima Mashi restaurant. That the San Madawachine, Chumadi Chunsa, Satsa the Tare. The camera, Korangala and the Lula, when I receive to Lava and the Lavadi, Kya Hamangarang late in the side, Tangaras Lindicanin, the Santana Petta Dura. Then the Santana, I think Narangama Kolapalula and get the Ringaradi in the Woody Yong, the camera, Kasim Solution. Mishia, Pagit the Lamalo, which is a lower levene, Nana Sanatang, I think Malakarchan Lina, Kissing Machilas, Tanialas, and the Roma Botendina, Yachanlea. It's a mamajet of the Nikangisira. Today, it's a lesson. The Lindican engine and him. Marang Malesa Shadi Devorism. The Channel Lende came on the day in the Sedicum of the Kamalina. Camera did the Yuri somebody chose the Lilisha. Met Masan Sama Matesha Rochera. Undi pet Kitchen machines again. Also, Susana Mapatan, so today that's Sakandito Nura.
Now, like, yeah, let's talk about like what happens when like the other person, he's not willing to listen to you or not willing to engage in a dialogue at all, and is still holding on to that resentment. And then like when you try to distance themselves and when you try to disengage from that person, and when you realizing that this person would not listen to or would not engage in dialogue, then when you go back to your room or when you go back to your home, this should not be a source of unhappiness or like source of bother for you. And because people tend to feel like, why is this person not talking about? And then like still like, play this out in their own head again and again. Like, you wanted to talk, but you did not get like, what you want in the sense of the word. Like when you wanted to talk, that other person is not willing to talk. Now then when you go back, you kind of feel like unhappy. You feel bothered that this person is not responding in the way you wanted to. So this becomes a source of bother for you. So you should not like think in this way. So when you go back, when you're alone in your home, if this kind of like things arise in your mind, then try to feel like, okay, this is done and dusted now. One way of looking at it is like, this is in the past, this is done and dusted. I do not want to like, still like hang on to it. And then even like after like trying to think about it this way, and you're not able to let it go, then like for someone who accepts karma, for a Buddhist person, one of the tools that we use is the acceptance of karma. So this is why like the concept of karma is stressed in Buddhism. Then like you have this like natural acceptance, like okay, this guy said these bad things and he's not willing to talk to me. Maybe this happened as a consequence of the negative actions that I took in my past life, and in this way you are able to resolve it in your mind. But of course, not everyone accepts karma. So how do we approach it? But if you do not accept karma, then look at it as I say, this is in the past. Now this is done and dusted, and then like just as a way like things naturally work out in the world. Not everything like works the way you want it to. If you accept it in that way, and then even if you accept it in the way like this is the natural course of action that it has to take, and then like if you are able to accept it this way, then maybe you do not like bring that like source of bother back home or with you in your room.
One question here. When it comes to like praying for someone or like saying like okay, that person was consumed by a specific poison and I shouldn't engage like what is written here, I have a feeling that this can also lead to developing an ego for yourself. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
It's like I'm superior, I understand this better. Not that I'm superior, but it ultimately develops an ego for the person that I'm going to pray for this person to heal or to be fine,
Of course, like kind of a feeling of self-righteousness. Is that what you mean?
Say again?
Like kind of a feeling of like self-righteousness.
Yeah. Like I feel like this is also some sort of like developing an ego for yourself.
Yes.
If you think all the time to say that no, I'm gonna be very compassionate, no, I know better, I'm better, so I'm gonna just forgive, So it's like separating yourself and looking down on people and putting yourself in a position that I'm higher and I'm looking down on you and I see your deficiency, I'm gonna pray for you. I just feel like this can also be a sense of ego.
No, but we sometimes we need to like remember like what the text teaches us, like to the kind of attitude we need to develop, because I understand what you mean, like when you say like this kind of like it's kind of like feeding into the ego of the person when he tries to like engage in like something. He might he might be susceptible. He might be in the danger of like feeling like I'm better than someone because I do this practice. But the real practice, we need to make a distinction between the real practice and like the misconceptions. So if we need to remember what the text teaches us. So in just a few lines before, like it teaches us to look at this type of people as our teachers, as our spiritual teachers, because without them we do not have the base or the object of practice. So this is the way you need to approach the practice without the ego. Yes. So I hope it kind of answers your question. And should I translate?
If you wish to.
The moilana yora the thagindi ta khala mishinda ki dunya ngalengi mishinda la molam jagi ngwa do tapna so nonglo la ya range ge ji po rangshin gi ligiros kajana na ta nga mishinda le laga ji ye samero ya nga khole laga ji nga mindawa ji odinde le sigiros
제가 근데 samaya mara 근데 ngaje samde na ni changi the gyaji dugodia jite chujiro chawara ngaya point meeting ngaya do house unegi yapo goromado yando house ta ngaya point samla suzo ngaje do chedane habendo ra senti changi yapo chewe mune yapo chogoromado mi ngaya yapo thongor sama ta ne ya ngashu yapo ida ranga shu insam ya chade diga ngaje cheju chawara.
So of course, it's like you say, there is this danger. It's a practical danger that presents to ourselves when we are trying to practice. But then we need to be always aware and mindful when we always in our practice. This is why like mindfulness and awareness is very important. And like in Buddhism, like it's mentioned like there are like the there are like 8 worldly concerns, and like pride and ego is one of them. So if your like practice is being characterized by like these 8 worldly concerns, then you need to take a step back. You need to rethink your steps. You need to approach it in a different way. So of course it's like you say, there is this present danger, but then like we need to be always aware, always mindful, you know, when we like embark on the path of practice. Now anyone, maybe some other persons want to share about their experience?
I have a thought, another experience that I have, but it relates to yesterday when we were talking about taking to solitary places. And that was my first reaction, and we talked about it. I said about yesterday that it makes me feel we shouldn't, of course, surround ourselves with people who are bad for us. We should surround ourselves with people who make us better, and we can make them better. But every time we encounter something that makes us feel bad, for example, someone who says wrong stuff about me, they are our teachers, and that is the reason I don't think we should go to solitary places.
Now, I think you asked the same question yesterday too, no?
Yeah. It's,
okay.
It's not really a question, you said, but I think...
But it's an insight. Good. The Korangi Dangon Tiwa to Tigo the Ranjaria. In the course, some not Anara. Inji Minji, ne Wensal the Jogo do like it, never do silly to Semna. Kajalana Tagi, Tangun ne Wensal the Jogore, Robanyambatum Rore, and Dinelairas. In it, and some down the Zamba, any young robot Godulage. Robanyamba and Churchill, Kokama do led.
Control in the Zuvasala Comlaja. Control Chesaki in the Zubagum Sayamara. Kisses of a gum to you, another as a Bagum Saki, Pagila, you to go.
Control Mena?
Control Madame. Control in the Zuvasala. Control say you the minute, Zubaka Silgum Borella. Control Lani, you mean Zuvasala Comlaja.
Okay, now, this is a good insight. And practical insight. There is another like a saying in Tibetan, in Tibetan Buddhism, wherein we say like, if there is no object of anger, then how do you practice tolerance? You know. So as I said, the distinction is, if you find it in yourself to be able to tolerate, then by all means engage with them, man. Right? Try to like help them to gain a better understanding. But if you find yourself like in a mental turmoil and like you are afraid that you're gonna lose your cool, then by all means run away to the hills.
It's also so. But when I hear this, it makes me also think about all the people who go to solitary places, and I wonder how they practice these things when there is no object for them to, or how are they going to exchange their karma, good karma to bad karma and suffering of all people if they're isolated.
The kisi minne wensa la duba nyamne chinge dindera. Konsu ta minyamdo di yomara, di dewa yomara. Ta tandang anzuki la di zomayang kongjogi da di dijimena ani suba khande gongola dinde geja demba innasra. Konsu dinde nyamne ngone ji tönda demba nyamne ji che ki koga biore westa konsu.
Konsu ina tampu kansu mi ishi sonna de ten rojura. Ra nyamyu sa ka ngete ka ende chine rogora. Lamsa chi wa lamsari kan re. Nende konsola shosola nyamyo da kade mambo thonde go ra tende ta de chumudu de na di chibur samde ni tari chiwa da samba ta ma da anche jide ko chi thoma ni lamsa do ra de sa thani ma do chi ne inji minji ge khana ge zobo go mo ina chi khare nyamne chewa ina inji minji phagi nyambo de khatu go chabayo ra soju ge peshan lo ani nyamne che khande che go de dan ta da zobo gom da chi bu marwa ri ri de ni ra sanong ge toba kon lo ya phedu ra konsol에 보면 신바요. 라 인지민지 콘도다 도샤시나 na ti ni bu chu bu mare ra de zo ye ta yin de yin ba che kon zu de zo le te ta de zo ni mi de ha ko ne nyam ni che go ra ta de ne de ne chu mu de le ha nga shin ba che ne ya ga do te calling a bunch of
yeah, of course, I understand your question, and but like you need to understand, like these people, they were not born like in a solitary retreat, you know. They were born in a human society, and then they like went through like of stages of facing the human society. They had like social interactions as human beings in a community first before they left like human society to go to the solitary retreats. So of course they had all this experience of like facing like anger, hatred, attachment, ignorance. In our like setup of in our like social setup, they had faced this, and they go up in the mountain feeling the need to like do away with these kind of emotions. And when they go into this retreat, they do not just focus on like the practice. When you go into a retreat, the practice is much like more like profound, because then like when you go into solitary retreat, then like tantra kind of takes on a meaning. So this is a different and more profound way of way of practicing, which maybe like it doesn't make sense to explain to lay people how they practice, what kind of they practice. But of course the way they practice is like, it's not that they are not exposed to the same social like social transgressions that we face. Of course they faced it, and then they leave this to practice a higher form of like practice in the solitary retreats.
Peni kora moran roje de pesha ina ra kya ta ta lo ni shi khazin ne chama je de khari ne chi re sa shi so na lo ne ta mo so de ta chana ri ga la do retreat do je do ina ya kya gi de ya chi chen ya ba ta da ji ben ji zo ba gom sa khon do zo ye che tha ri ji do ra ni ne ani kya gi ta ti ga la lo jo che ta do ya shi lo wizin cha chaw de zo ya zo lo jo che ya da nya me che la pa ji ju da zo ye ka do ra kya do ji ne do ina 아니 디간 단다 지나기 단다 럽좀 같이 시계나디 다시 주선다 이제다 가르고 저주가 때야 콘도 패야치더라 단도 디간 메트네 돼라 당하데 가데 도기메 저거 검사 이르면도 콘도 제기 디저 이 상황 간데 티치부 말라 단도 심바체 마베 페나레다 거라도나.
Just as an example, like now let's imagine you yourself as a person now, a young person in their 20s, having faced like all this like social transgressions, like having faced all this, and then like if you go to a solitary retreat, then like try to think about like the opportunity that is presented to you when you go to a social retreat, go to a solitary retreat. Of course, you might feel like, as we are just talking about, like if you have no object of anger, then like how do you practice tolerance? If you think about it that way, and then but of course you have this concern, but like you try to think about the opportunity that is presented before yourself when you go to a solitary retreat. What are these opportunities? The opportunities are, you have no distractions up in the mountains, and then you have no distractions, and then you have no distractions. If you have no distractions, then like compared to like the insights that you gain in a social setup and the insights that you gain in a solitary retreat into the same like examination of transgression or your reaction to that transgression, of course there is a difference of depth between these two insights.
Don't they end up just coming out of retreat after 10 or 13 years become really great teachers because they have their understanding of the Dhamma through just such intense study and practice, with no distractions for so many years, becomes so deep that they come out and are great teachers. So they,
Do all monastics? Is that your question?
No, just some of the monastics who go into retreat, private retreat. Don't many of them, they don't die in retreat, they come out of retreat, they become teachers.
Yes. Dida yora duba nyamlen chinge do lo sum dasum do la ni ta chazwin do no dasum pena ra 아니 디 트레네 참 트레네 마 로페도 좀봐 아니 망보지 농원에 거라 아니 추신이 개봐 기겐 개봐 된저질라 아니 마트리기도 왔어 된저 여러 왔어. Yes, there are a lot of
one woman that's very known. Yeah, she.
다이네 곰자단도 좀 마시나라야. 같이 지기 한 곰자단을 툭도네 kinta chaya ngi gara. Tene maasi tene rezi dhimne umara. Maasi yabo chawar. Chik ngi kora gamda maasi nira. Tene chene ya kashi chik maa ude thanda mejiru. Tene shijala si bado. Maasi yabo chaya ngi bara. Gombe yana chaya semba yabo chaya de dira. Ne chik ngi jila petani tsama tene chaya latu umara.
But I would like to also stress this following the correct instructions when you go into the solitary retreat or just a course of meditation in a solitary place is very important. Of course, out of the many people who go for retreats, many people when they come out of the retreat, they come out with deep insights, a much better understanding of the true nature of reality, and they have much more to teach us. But then there are also instances wherein if someone is not able to follow the correct instructions, not go with the correct motivations, then when they come out of the retreat, somehow they appear more disoriented than they actually when they go into retreat. So this is very important. I'm not saying everybody is like that, but this is a danger this is a danger that is present when you take to solitary meditation.
Chidudi namdi korea mando gune rali dora.
La.
Ya gomjaga mando ngyan. Mi kaji semba thanda mi juru to. Inje khawa don kangi ko dela don ko khawa don ko chiba mi jido. Tera to do ina kuma ulam ya cha thoegi teskala khawre. Ina kaji mone tanegi kona na disru khawa don kangi do thedi ya do ina une ji nyame ya ba chitu ina ma de ya ba chaira. Kasi di chamel danga dela dona ngachi bumi dela dona chum danga pai dona ya ga mi so do ache egila gom nyane ya ko chema chila ma ya ma tu ende do chna imarun ta dur man ya do ya
So yes, it depends on what kind of person you are, or what kind of situation you were in before you go into solitary retreat. Because if you are a type of person who tries to who in a society is not able to fit into society, even as much as you try, and then you change a lot of places, I'm not happy here, I need to move. You move to another place, you change your company, you change your place, and then if you are that type of person, and then you are naturally mentally disturbed, and then this type of person who has a history of just changing places and not really working at transforming oneself, if this person changes, it's just changing a hotel, when he goes to a solitary retreat, we cannot really expect this person to gain an insight or to make the best use of the solitary meditation. So yes.
Kasi indi yorda soba khawada mila thupa je dilam chibu me ya phashu de na zamni gam tik soba khawe sanjur kangi chanya ra tene ko ti ta khoran change tar me se khasa khala chibu me yumar ra chi ni de yumsi bache ra ta khawada na chibu me ka misuthu na ya bom chambo me tene di tigal da nga khensa ju sare san so la ta chi de ani jowa ta de pekhi ra ne jowa ya bach tang den tene jene chana ya bom me go chu ye ra ya
So as I said before, and we must always learn to look within ourselves first before taking on the path of practice. Just because you hear about solitary meditation, you should not just jump on the chance, And I want to also give this example, maybe I already gave the example, but I've seen some people they are active in so many different organizations, in so many different parts of the world, but somehow they are not able to fit in with any one organizations, and they are not able to look within themselves, and they always have some problem with each of the organizations or each of the community that they find themselves in, and they are not able to take a look within themselves. And if this type of person he goes on a solitary meditation, then maybe it's not so fruitful, you know. So of course, before going to a solitary meditation or just taking on any kind of practice, the motivation should be always to look inside yourself first, like, you know, to do a reality check of yourself first, rather than just jumping on the opportunity to like do meditation or do like some practice.